Well, the wave of political scandals among Virginia's top Democrats is putting some new pressure on the left to maintain the moral high ground, even when it comes to scandals within their own party. But with both the governor and lieutenant governor bucking calls to step down, President Trump predicts that Virginia voters will turn to the GOP in 2020. So is he right? Here to debate, GOP strategist Lauren Claffey and Democratic political commentator Jonathan Harris. Thank you both for joining us this morning. We certainly appreciate it.
Hey, good morning.
So, Jonathan, I'll start with you. Since we're talking about the Democratic Party, what do you make of what's going on in Virginia? Let's just start generically.
Look, both parties are going to have scandals like this. They have had scandals like this, from racism to sexual abuse allegations. I think the reality is they're going to have to figure out a way to handle this and get it out of the headlines before 2020 in terms of the Democrats. And if they can, I think it'll be long forgotten. But I do think, you know, if someone's maintaining their innocence, we have to let the investigation play out. I think that's fair. With Northam, he should have long since resigned. But I've said before, I think Steve King should have resigned as well. So I think it's an issue. That is an issue on both sides.
And Lauren, what is your take on this?
It's just so hypocritical that the Democrats can come after the Republicans for things, random claims that you know, we're not the party of women, or that there's no space for black Americans in the Republican politics, and then have this within their own party, and not even remotely. None of them are stepping down. They're sticking in. And Northam's interview yesterday with CBS was just mind-blowing to watch, that he's a doctor and so he'll be able to heal this. I mean, they need to step down as quickly as possible and move past, and that would be the path that I would recommend, especially if I was a 2020 candidate.
Do you think if they do not, that this makes it more plausible for Republicans to take Virginia?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just don't see how Virginia voters they would withstand this, right? I mean, it's mind-blowing that this is happening for the Democratic Party.
Jonathan, does this put Democrats in danger in Virginia?
I think it may put Democrats in danger in Virginia, but I think it's difficult for the right to get on a moral soapbox about this. If you're not asking Trump to step down for his racist comments, you're not asking Trump to step down. He has tons of sexual abuse allegations. I think you have to play that equally on both sides. So if you're going to ask Steve King to step down and Trump to step down, then we can ask
Fairfax, from what I understand, first of all, is now accused of rape back at Duke University, and President Trump has never appeared in blackface.
Right. No, I'm just saying, if the issue is abuse allegations, Trump has been accused of sexual abuse. And if it's racism, Trump has made a litany of racist remarks, right up to the Trail of Tears comment he tweeted about Elizabeth Warren recently. So, I mean, you have to be equal in the way that you're asking this to play out.
Lauren, how do you answer that?
I guess I'm confused at the definition of racism sometimes. I mean, blackface is absolutely in a different category than poking fun at Elizabeth Warren for, you know, her claims of being Native American. So
is it?
I disagree.
Is it different than saying that Mexicans are murderers and rapists and criminals, and that a few of them are good people, or that a Mexican judge can't do his job because he's Mexican and Trump wants to build a wall? I mean, racism is pretty clear, and it's something that happens on both sides. But if you're not going to call on Trump to step down, why are you calling on Democrats to step down?
First of all, I don't believe that the president was talking about all Mexicans. We're being generic there. I think he was talking about the majority of illegal immigrants trying to cross into the border when he made that statement.
I mean, the thing is, it's still a racist statement. So I think that's why people question, at least on the right, the reaction to this, because it's like there are tons of stories like this that came from the conservative right, and there were no calls for people to step down. Steve King, questioning what's wrong with being a white supremacist, has not stepped down. So yes, like I said, it's something that happens on both sides, but I mean, you have to be equal in the way you're asking this to play out.
Lauren?
He hasn't stepped down, but he has been censured and removed from his committees. So I do think that the Republican Party has made a strong statement with Steve King that they're not going to stand for that rhetoric anymore. And so I think the Democrats need to do the same thing in regards to their Virginia Democrats.
No, it seems to be changing every day, and we'll certainly see what happens on this front today, because as you said, the interview with CBS yesterday with Northam was quite something to see. So we'll see if that changes things. Lauren, Jonathan, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Joining me now, Howie Kurtz, Fox News media analyst and host of Media Buzz. Howie, good to see you tonight. What's your take on these new developments?
Well, make no mistake, Martha, Justin Fairfax is in deep trouble because the allegations by this new accuser, Meredith Watson. Moves the debate from he said, she said over a sexual encounter with the first woman, Vanessa Tyson, which Fairfax claims is consensual, to a much more troubling question of whether there's a pattern of sexual misconduct. And I don't think the Lieutenant Governor is doing himself any favors by accusing Meredith Watson of a smear, the same word, the same phrase, smear campaign that he used against the first woman. Why would either of these women, what do they have to gain by coming forward? As Trace noted, they're not asking for money. They're not going on TV. They're not seeking publicity. They say they have an obligation to come forward because it looked like Justin Fairfax was on the verge of becoming Virginia's governor.
Well, you know, when you look at covering this story, I mean, you know, he can certainly say that he's innocent if he believes he's innocent. I mean, that's what he's doing. We talk so much about due process in the Kavanaugh case, and when you look at that, you know, you think back to Christine Blasey Ford saying that she had shared the story with friends much later on. You know, and I know Ellison Barber reported earlier that they've asked the lawyers to turn over these documents that substantiate the fact that she did share this story with people. And, you know, I guess one of the questions is when, you know, what is it clearly documented at the time that she says this happened? And if that's the case, then that's very significant, very credible. Or was it later? It's a valid question.
Well, on that very point, Martha, the Washington Post today quotes on the record a friend of Meredith Watson saying that she came crying to her when they were both students at Duke University in 2000, saying that she had been raped by the man who is now Virginia's lieutenant governor. So that's one person on the record offering that kind of corroboration. And at the same time, the contrast between the way the much less substantiated allegations were treated against Brett Kavanaugh, where you didn't have any corroborating witnesses. It's really striking because at that time you had all these liberal commentators, not to mention lots of Democrats, saying Kavanaugh cannot possibly be confirmed and all women must be believed. But until now, we just hear about a rush of Democrats, including former Governor Terry McAuliffe, saying Fairfax should step down. Many Democrats have been very cautious. Liberal commentators have been either tepid or silent, not applying the same standard that they themselves brought to the Kavanaugh hearing.
I mean, it's a great point. I mean, that believe all women must be believed was the refrain that you heard from so many halls and across so much of the media during the Brett Kavanaugh situation. And it has taken quite a while, Howie, and this second allegation, which, as you say, has at least one person who claims that she came to her crying at the time. You know, we really are, it's incumbent upon everybody who covers these stories to do them fairly for both sides.
You know, the fact is, for the political people, you know, Democrats and Republicans, same thing, are much more reluctant to cry for somebody's political scalp when it's somebody who's on your own team. The person here, the biggest impact now, I think, on Virginia is that it looked like Ralph Northam was about 5 seconds away from resigning, and now I think he clearly is going to be able to hang on, because even though the 35-year-old incident of blackface that he has fessed up to is offensive and racist, it kind of pales in comparison to his number two, who's now being accused of criminal conduct.
And you know, and that raises a lot of questions about the political machinations and the competition to stay in power and all of these things that just tumbled out at once. Then you had the Attorney General also coming forward, perhaps because he was afraid that a picture was going to surface or something along those lines, saying that he too, you know, as you know, something that he saw as harmless at the time, dressed up like rappers, was friends of his. I mean, and also, it keeps striking me, Howie, that the beginning of all of this was Northam talking about third trimester abortion in a way that a lot of people found extremely upsetting.
He gave an extraordinarily controversial interview in which he seemed to come out for abortion being allowed under a law that he seemed to be supporting up until the day of birth. And the reason these two stories are tied together is that that's how the original allegation about the blackface in the 1984 yearbook surfaced, because it's been reported that some of his medical school classmates back when he was doing this blackface thing were so upset about his abortion comments that they felt the need to go to the press. So Northam, you know, looked like he couldn't hang on. Some people were saying, look, it was 35 years ago, maybe he's changed, not excusing what he did at all. But politics is always compared to what.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable if you can come out one day and say, that's me in the picture and I'm very embarrassed, and then go back and talk about it over the weekend, which he said he did with his wife and made a lot of phone calls to friends from the time, and then come back and say it's not me. But he seems to be hanging on. Howie, thank you very much. Good to have you here tonight.
Great to see you.